Sugar time! I was wondering what the first Final Fantasies were like because, like a lot of people, I only played the later ones. The first one I played was Final Fantasy IV as a kid, and then later on I played 5 and 6 with some fan translations through completely legal and legitimate means. I never had a PlayStation, but my neighbor did, and we played Final Fantasy VII over there and took turns. From there I missed a few of them till 11, which I played for about 7 years, and then 14, which I still play now. I played 15 and the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So what I wanted to do was start from the very beginning and play through all of the Final Fantasy games. I'm going into this wanting to enjoy them and have a good time. And if you ever wondered what they were about or just wanted to see somebody's reaction to them, I'd be happy to have you here. I know pretty much nothing about Final Fantasy 1 through 3. Anything I know about Final Fantasy 1 comes through vague memories of 8-bit theater, and I doubt that was accurate to the story. What I expect is that we'll see the establishment of certain things that will become constants throughout the series, like job titles, but we'll probably also have things that were dropped quickly from the series and stuff that's missing from the first entry that you usually expect to see in a Final Fantasy. Sort of like when you go back and play the first Sonic the Hedgehog and he doesn't have his spin dash move and it's driving you crazy because you're used to having the spin dash. I expect the story to be simple and straightforward fantasy. Big Bad wants to destroy a kingdom, heroes stop him, something like that. I don't expect a ton of nuance. I don't know how long it'll be overall given its age. It'll probably be shorter than the later entries, I would guess, just because of limitations at the time. And that's about it for now. I guess let's get this started. Let me just get out of the way here. And I gotta look at the controls so I can forget them immediately. I always remember this stuff from muscle memory. Are any of you like that? Anytime it says to press the triangle button or something, I have to stop and look. Wait, isn't he usually fighter? He is, isn't he? Or is that a fan translation or something? I'm not sure. Maybe that was from 8-bit theater, I don't know, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I actually just found out there's a novelization of the first 3 games, so after I play them, maybe I'll read that, and I can see what they call him in there. I'm glad this is the original Thief. I know they did a redesign of him later, but I always think of him as the blue-haired one. And I'm going to generally be quiet through the opening and cutscenes and things like that. I'll fast forward through some stuff too, because you don't need to watch every single fight.
The world lies shrouded in darkness. The winds die. The seas rage. The earth decays. But the people believe in a prophecy, patiently awaiting its fulfillment. When darkness veils the world, 4 warriors of light shall come. After a long journey, 4 young travelers did at last appear, and in the hand of each was clutched a crystal
That's pretty good for the time it was made. Have you ever seen those channels where they go over how they made effects and stuff in old games? Those are always pretty neat. I think the best boundary break that I ever saw was for Final Fantasy 15. There was so much stuff in that game that never even made it into the game. And a lot of it's absolutely stunning. They did great work. A lot of great work that nobody ever saw. I'm sure I'll talk about that more when I get to Final Fantasy 15, but that probably won't be for a while.
The king is searching for the prophesied warriors of light. Those crystals, could it be...
Yep, it's me.
My sister! I want my sister!
No problem, we'll go find her. Maybe she's playing hide and seek. I like to go in every single spot of the map, by the way, so I'll be wandering around a lot. You already saw that line.
Her Majesty's overcome with grief. She shut herself inside her chambers. Please try not to upset her.
I am Jane, Queen of Cornelia. Please, please bring my daughter, my Sarah, back to me safely.
You know, this is a lot of pressure. I just got here. Do these people even know what my name is? There's literally a thief in my party.
Garland was once the greatest knight in the kingdom, but power consumed him, and he lost sight of who he really was.
That sucks. I've known people who have changed a lot when you haven't seen them for a while. Uh-oh. He just walked in the way down there. Do I have to stand around and wait for him? No, you can push.
Please, please save Lady Sarah.
I bet that pushing was added in later because this is an updated version for Steam. So that's probably one of the little things they updated. Played a lot of older games where you have to stand around and wait for the NPC to move out of the way if they get in your way. We're obviously meant to go to the top, so I want to check the bottom first.
Our reports say that Garland fled north with the princess to the Chaos Shrine.
This is unbalanced. I don't like that. If you have a guard on one side, you need to have a guard on the other side.
The king is searching for the prophesied warriors of light. Those crystals. You must see the king at once.
Welcome, travelers. I am told you carry crystals. Is this true? It's just as Lucan's prophecy foretold. When darkness veils the world, 4 warriors of light shall come.
Your Majesty, we cannot be certain that these are the warriors foretold by the prophecy.
Yet they stand before us with the crystals. I cannot dismiss this as mere coincidence. Crystal bearers, there is a task I would ask of you. Will you rescue my daughter, Sarah?
Garland, a knight once in His Majesty's service, has abducted Princess Sarah. I ask for your aid in the name of His Majesty, the King of Cornelia. Garland has taken refuge in the Chaos Shrine, which lies to our north. Of course, we did attempt to save the princess ourselves, but Garland is the finest swordsman in the kingdom. We have none who can match him.
I have heard that you wish to journey to the continent to our north. The bridge leading north was lost long ago, making passage impossible. If you can rescue Sarah, I will have the bridge rebuilt as a token of my gratitude. Gilgal, warriors of light, and do not fail me. The warriors of light have come at last. How long we have waited for this day to come. Garland is no longer the man I once knew. I beg of you, please return my daughter to me quickly.
The dancing girl in town knows many odd bits of information. If you find yourself astray, try talking to her. She may know something that can put you back on course.
Why do you know the dancing girl so well? But I guess that's where we get tips if we get lost or don't know what to do next. How do we get up to this old guy? I'm going to try and line up the voices with the text, but sometimes it's not going to work out. I'm just doing my best to get it in there. As you saw, it started to get off track and I guess you would call that a cutscene. Looks like we found the way, so let's see what's up here.
Our ancestors sealed weapons within this treasure room 400 years ago. They then gave the key to the Elf King to hold until the coming of the Warriors of Light.
Okay, sounds like we need to go see this Elf King. I actually don't think of elves and dwarves much when I think of Final Fantasy, but I guess it wasn't it originally based on AD&D or Dungeons and Dragons? I know they're in there, and 11 and 14 have the Elvins and the Elysian, that kind of stuff. I guess I mostly associate it more with the job classes. Alright, we're on map, so let's go defeat Garland. I think they said he was up to the north. It's an ambush! Okay, looks like we get to see our first fight and what the battle system looks like. Looks like we don't have any magic yet. Not too many options yet, but we are almost to level 2 already. This must be the bridge that he said he was going to repair. Okay, we've already seen goblins, so we don't need to see them again. Okay, we're here, but I only need one more experience point. I'm gonna go get level 2 before I go in. Oh, this one's a goblin guard. Totally different from a goblin. Oh, that's so many more hit points. It's almost double. You're so strong. I'm glad we did that. Let's go take on Garland now. Oh, werewolf. And 3 guards. Well, let's see how this goes. Oh no, that hit for so much. This might be a problem. The werewolf's taking so much damage. Oh no, not the warrior! He was so strong! Okay guys, I think it's time to run away. We weren't ready. I guess I was supposed to level first. I got a little bit trigger happy. Let's go level.
This is Cornelia, the City of Dreams.
The town is separate from the castle. I was thinking the whole place was one area. Okay, what were all those old guys doing hanging out at the inn? Okay, so we got our tutorials. Well, I guess that makes sense, especially because this is probably... Isn't this one of the first games like this? Okay, so in this one, we have to choose which spells we get. That's different than what a lot of them are. Okay, so we already have weakness to the different elements this early on. I remember way back when, back on, I think it would have been the Super Nintendo, there was a game similar to this RPG that had such a high random encounter rate that I never got past the beginning, and I can't remember what it was. I'm thinking it was called Lufia or something like that, but I'm not sure if that's the right one or if it's just one of the games we had. If anybody remembers, let me know. I just remember the random encounters were constant and I had no idea where I was supposed to go.
I once lived to the east of here in the harbour city of Pravoka. These days, I hear it's turned into a pirate's den.
Sounds like we're gonna have pirates. I always think of Final Fantasy V when that comes up. Speaking of the Lufia thing, I think that's something a lot of people forget when they talk about how games these days always have patches and games before were always ready when they were released. There were actually a lot of bad games before, but most people don't remember them, and a lot of them probably could have used patches. People mostly just remember the best of the best games from back then, not the ones that needed some help.
Hi there, I'm a dancer. What's that? You want to dance with me? Hee!
Well, that line came out a little bit weird, but found the dancing girl. There's actually a channel, I haven't watched him in a while, but it was called Zetaplays, and he's slowly been going through all the old games for years now, and there is an amazing amount of games that were just terrible. I'll link him below. Hopefully nobody noticed that I bought equipment I already had. Whoops. I was just looking at the blue arrows as, oh, they can wear this, but I need to pay attention. I think they had green arrows for when they might have better equipment. Or not blue arrows, it was blue check marks. I'm not going to show up most of the time when I buy equipment. I'll just skip through those parts real fast. Just assume that I'm upgrading them when I go through the game.
Restore the crystals to Grace.
I'm not positive what he means by that. What exactly am I supposed to do? Well, it looks like we could upgrade 2 of them here at least. See, I'm learning. Nothing new for our mages though, and they're the ones who get hit the hardest. Looks like we have a few different stats here. Sometimes one goes up and one goes down, so I guess I'll have to pay attention to which ones I want to have. Or it does look like there is an optimal button. I might just hit that each time too. I wonder if they have it set. Well, they must have it set to go a certain way each time. I wonder if that was in the original release or if that's something that they added on later. Some of this seems like it's pretty clean for being the first game already, so I'm really betting that some of it might have been fixed up later. I won't take this long on buying stuff later on. I just wanted to see what it looks like and all that. And I'll be fast forwarding through it anyway, so don't worry about me spending so much time on this every time. Oh, and we buy our spells, so I guess we could see our first spells here. Okay, so there's 4 spells and only 3 slots. So that's where we have to pick which spells we get. And I want to save a little bit of money to get a spell for Black Mage too.
Oh, please. You must rescue the princess.
I'm on it. I mean, Did you see what happened earlier? I need to get a few more levels before I go try that again. So Black Mage has the attack spells and the debuffs, and White Mage has the healing spells and the buffs, it looks like. I don't know how powerful the debuffs will be, but it sounds like it could be good to put all the enemies to sleep at once. I'll try it out and see.
Sage Lucan said something about finding the crescent moon. Then he just up and left town.
The king truly believes in Lucan's prophecy, that the Warriors of Light will come to save the princess.
Please, rescue Lady Sarah.
So I'm guessing we're gonna run into Lucan somewhere out there, and it looks like this is a place to revive your guys when you die. Okay, finally time to go level. I haven't seen this one before. It's just a horse.
Everything in order? Yep.
Training montage music time. Okay, now that we've had the training montage, let's try this again. We're strong now. We're level 4, and that's twice as many levels as last time. Okay, that didn't take long. Let's see how strong we are. Very strong. Oh, we're coming for you now, Garland. Aren't these guys lovely? Okay, they're taking more hits, but it looks like I can take them just fine. I want to explore all the corners first. Another door where we need that mystic key. We'll have to remember it later. Well, here's our chance to try out Dia. I was actually looking up Dia before I did this because I wanted to know how to pronounce it. I always pronounced it Dia, but I didn't know if that was right. And I found on the Final Fantasy Compendium an interesting interview that talks about the spell names and everything. I guess Dia was short for Dispel Undead, which I guess makes sense, because if you consider how it would be pronounced in Japanese, they would take the first letters of each one. And I guess I just turned the into an A, although it's pronounced Dia. They had so many limitations back then that they just had to make work. It's kind of interesting because now Dia is just a spell that you know, and I bet a lot of people don't know even what it stands for. It's just the white mage spell. They still have it in the games. And it's just because of how many limitations they had with how many letters they could put in the game before. Also, it looks like Dia does pretty good. It just killed them all. I'm gonna go check the top corners before I go into the big scary door. Another mystic key door. I'll have to remember all of these. Well, this is a lot of guys. I think we get to finally see how well sleep works. Okay, only 2 of them should be awake. That's pretty good. Wait a minute, that guy's supposed to be asleep. Why is he attacking? All of them are attacking. It's like they're not even asleep. Feels like sleep didn't do anything at all. Sleep is getting pretty bad. Would have been nice if the guys were asleep. Well, looks like the heal spell didn't go off fast enough. Okay, so we gotta get through this fight, and then we'll drag his body back to the guy who revives people. I mean, we got a fighter, he could carry him. Well, now that Thief can't hear us, we could talk about him behind his back. So does anybody else think it's a little bit suspicious that he's in this party? I mean, you have the brave warrior, you have the benevolent white mage, you have the learned black mage, and then you just have this guy who's picking people's pockets. I kind of think somebody else was the warrior of light, and Thief shanked him in the back and took his crystal, and then he just kind of had to go with the story when he found out what it was. I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just saying, one of these things is not like the others. It would actually be amazing if they let him have a backstory like that. Like he's just some guy who got wrapped up in all of this. He's not even a warrior of light. That would be more interesting than just being a chosen one. Hey buddy, how are you doing? So good to see you again. We were just talking about all the adventures we had before. You know, all the ones that we had. Maybe they're covered in the book? I don't know. I'll probably read that after I finish the game and talk about it in the end. I don't want to spoil the game because, like I said, I don't know anything about it. And I don't want to spoil the next ones either, so I'll probably just read that part and then talk about it at the end. Well, zombies are new, but I'm guessing they're about the same strength as the other things in here. Yep, that was over pretty fast. Okay, we still had the left top corner to check. Oh, there we go, treasure. That wasn't much, but I'll take it. I think it's almost time to go to the middle. Trying to save my spells for the big fight. Looks like there's no door up here. Level 6 already. We're doing good. Alright, looks like we're headed down. We're going to the door. Wonder how many floors there will be. It's just the first dungeon, so it can't be that bad. Then again, way back when, Japanese were notorious for making super hard games. Oh, we found him.
The king will have no choice but to exchange the kingdom for his daughter's life. Cornelia will be mine. Who's there? The king's lapdogs. Do you have any idea who you're messing with? You really think you have what it takes to cross swords with me? I, Garland, will knock you all down.
That was a weird read, but I had to stitch it together a bit because the site doesn't want to let you say anything violent. But I don't know many people who go around saying they'll knock each other down. That sounds very much like what you would hear in a PG-13 movie or something like that, not what people would really say if they were being violent. That said, it looks like we made it to the end of the game, guys. It wasn't very long, but that was pretty good. I mean, I like the story. You have to go save the princess, and go do that. It really delivers on what it promises. A lot of stories don't do that, and it's very important. Now, I read a lot of books, and I edit light novels for a living. And there's a lot of times where you're promised one thing, and you get another. Especially right now with the villainous stories, where they're very popular. They like to make the villainess is the protagonist, but then she's not really a villainess in most of these stories. Not even remotely close. It's usually just a misunderstanding or something. So they're advertising their book as a story about a villainess, and there's no real villainess. They just call the villainess the heroine, and the heroine the villainess, and they think that's enough. Alright, looks like we won.
You've come to rescue me? I am Sarah, Princess of Cornelia. Words could never be enough to thank you. That's the first time anyone's ever defeated Garland. You must allow me to show my gratitude. Please, accompany me to Castle Cornelia.
Thank you for returning my daughter to my side. There can be no doubt that you are the warriors of light from Lucan's prophecy. You should hear the prophecy in its entirety. If I may. When darkness veils the world, 4 warriors of light shall come. If they cannot gather the shards of light, the darkness will consume all. The 4 crystals will never shine again. Now, I hear that a crystal can be found on the continent to our north. Restoring light to the crystals is our only hope of ridding the world of the monsters which plague it. I will have the bridge to the north rebuilt, as I promised. I pray that you succeed in restoring light to the 4 crystals and to the world. Sarah's thoughts are always with you.
The lute has been entrusted to the Princess of Cornelia for many generations. When he abducted me, Garland took this lute as well. I want you to have it. It may aid you on your journey.
I wasn't expecting that. What am I supposed to do with a lute? And he's still going on about the dancing girl. I'm on to you, Chancellor. So I guess we gotta head over to the bridge to the north now. And that was just above the castle. Should I go see if anybody says something new? I'll do that later.
Orders from His Majesty. We're to do our part to fulfill Lucan's prophecy.
What does this bridge have to do with the prophecy?
The 4 warriors of light are here. They're here in Cornelia.
And so their quest began. As the 4 warriors of light, they felt overwhelmed by the great task destiny had placed before them. They did not even know the true significance of the 4 crystals they held in their hands. The crystals that once long ago held a light that shone so brilliantly. The time for their journey had come. The time to cast off the veil of darkness and bring the world once more into light.
I can see why the game was so big before. That would be a really epic opening back then. I still like it. It's pretty pleasant. It's still mostly straightforward, but you have the good opening with fighting Garland, getting used to the game. Then you have that little epic scene of them standing, looking out, little birds flying around, and a hint that maybe things are more complex than you realize, because they don't know what the crystals are for. I still think it'll be mostly simple, but I like that. That's a really nice story setup. I'm not sure I'm ready to just walk into another cave. I'm gonna see if there's any towns first. I'm starting to run into some new monsters here. I like the detail of changing the backgrounds depending on where you run into a monster. Sometimes it's the little things. So right now, I'm just wondering if I need to check everywhere I go, if I can use the loot, or if it'll come up automatically, if it's a side thing, if it's... I could have just easily walked away from the castle and not gotten the loot. So I wonder if it's something that you can miss on the side, kind of like Vincent Valentine in Final Fantasy VII. Or if it's part of the main storyline. I just don't want to miss whatever it's for. Although it would be kind of impressive if they were already adding side quests this early on into the series. Got a whole new area to explore out here. I wonder how big this map is overall, like how many cities there are, or towns, or whatever you want to call them. I can't imagine there's too many because the game could only be so big. And I know Black Belt and Red Mage will be out there somewhere because, I mean, they're on the thumbnail for the game, so I'm assuming they're in the game. I don't know how long until we find them. I don't know if they come early on, or in the middle of the game, or what, but very curious to see how that will work, and if you switch people in and out of your party at that point, because you couldn't have more than 4 people in your party at once. Or maybe story-wise somebody will leave, and then they'll join, or something like that, I don't know. Okay, looks like we found the next town, so we'll have a place to sleep and resupply and do everything we need and find out what's going on in that town. Because for some reason our guys were headed north. Although, the story doesn't say why our guys were headed north, just that the king said that we were. Maybe he was making assumptions, I don't know, the king could have been lying. But we were headed north, so I assumed something like this is why we were headed north. I'm kind of guessing it'll never elaborate on what our guys were up to or what they did before. I do hope that the book covers maybe some of their earlier adventures, how did they meet, or anything like that, but right now I don't really expect to get that explanation. Most of the time I don't even really picture them having names. I know the book gives them names, but after I look at it in the book, or after I see them, I immediately forget them because I only think of them as fighter, black mage, white mage, and thief. And he wasn't even called fighter here, he was called warrior. And I call him fighter. Maybe I should have named him fighter instead of warrior. Finally, that fight took a while. Now we can get to town. Oh, so this is the pirate place.
Please help us.
And just what be ye doing here? You wouldn't be looking to make trouble with Bicky's Buccaneers, would ye?
You've got cannonballs of steel to be taken out of the great pirate Bicky. Kill, haul 'em, boys.
Aye, aye, Captain. We'll make their bones go crunch.
I wasn't expecting a fight. I'm not ready for a fight. I hope my guys don't die again. I'm giving sleep one more chance. If it doesn't do anything, I'm not bothering with it anymore. It's gonna be close. I would have gone to the inn first if I knew there was going to be a fight in here. There goes Black Mage, so hopefully his spell did something. You know, when I started, I thought they had like 4 of each spell in the first level, but it's just 4 for all of them. Maybe that's because I only had 1 spell to start out with. And the guys who are asleep are attacking right away again. Does that spell do anything? It must do something. But I'm not seeing much of an effect here. Maybe the debuffs in this game aren't very good. Sometimes that's the case. I might even go look up exactly what it does, because maybe it's some sort of each turn they have a chance of waking up and then there's a certain percent or something like that. It has to be doing something, I just don't see it doing anything. At least it looks like we're gonna make it anyway.
I'd be most sorry, young masters. I'll be making no more fuss, I swear. I want ye to take me ship for your troubles. Can you find it in your heart to forgive an old pirate?
I didn't expect a ship.
I've had myself a change of heart. I plan to buckle down and be the hardest worker in town. Ye believe me, don't ye?
Do you believe him?
They say there are elves living across the sea, but the elf prince has fallen into a deep sleep and hasn't woken up.
Because of you, we needn't fear the pirates anymore. Thank you so much.
I just walked into town and fixed the problem by accident. So I think we're going to upgrade some equipment, maybe buy some new spells, take a look around. Getting near the end of this video because I want to do them, probably like 2-hour chunks, and it seems like I could crop a 2-hour chunk down into about 1 hour. So we'll sail around a little bit and see what's out there, and maybe I'll run into another town to check. But I'll probably end it about there. So I don't know what we'll find. I wasn't expecting a ship. I wasn't expecting a fight either. But, well, I got one, I guess. It still feels pretty early in the game, but I guess the game probably wouldn't be that long anyway, so they just throw a ship at you. At least we got Black Mage back. Does the first Final Fantasy have chocobos? Because that's usually one of the first transportation methods that you get in these games. But I haven't seen anything yet, and I don't know if I've ever heard of them being in here. I've been wondering the same thing about the summons like Titan and Shiva and Garuda and all of them. Because I haven't seen anything of them. They do have the crystals, and they do have the different elements for the crystals, it looks like. So maybe we'll run into the gods of the crystals or something like that.
I don't think there are any ports to the north. A ship can only dock at a port, you know?
He was a lot friendlier than he looked. That's why you don't judge people based on their looks. So I'm gonna go sailing and see what kind of monsters appear at sea. But then I'll probably just sail around a bit and see where all the ports are and where I could go. So does this mean that a shark jumped onto our ship? It does look like there's a little broken wall in the back. So man, I wonder if that's the insinuation that they just broke through and now they're on the deck fighting you. I guess these sharks can breathe on the land. One thing is, I haven't really seen any monsters that make me think of Final Fantasy yet. These make me think more of what you would see in the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, something like that. Or just generic things that are on land or water, like the horse and the sharks. I mean, I guess goblins and Sahagins are staple, but I mean more like the Marlboro, the Curls, the Tonberries, things that feel more specifically Final Fantasy, or like the Cactuar. These are the kind of things that you find in all fantasy. If you pick up any fantasy game, it'll probably have goblins in it. That's actually what I was talking about in the beginning when I thought there might be things kind of missing from this game that you're used to seeing in Final Fantasy, but because it's the first game, they haven't necessarily made them yet. So it might be that there are no chocobos, or there's no curls, or there's no, some of the things that you almost always see. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to with this, because going back playing the first games gives me a chance to really see how the series developed, what they kept, what they left behind. And I think that sort of thing is really interesting. And a lot of times it's really the second entry that will introduce things that are kept throughout the rest of a series. A lot of times the first entry, they don't realize it's going to be a thing yet. And it is kind of interesting with this series in particular that each time they just create a whole new story. And they had to have decided that early on, probably because they wrapped this story up and there's nothing more to do with it. And so it was just easier to use some of the same monsters and story beats and stuff like that, but start all anew so that you don't have to try and explain why these guys are out adventuring again. Was it Final Fantasy X that's the first one that actually has a sequel? Or maybe it's Final Fantasy VII. Not a sequel necessarily, but Final Fantasy VII had so much side stuff because that was their big game. It's still their big game. But it was a fun game. I like that one, so. I really like that they have a lot of it fleshed out now that they didn't in their original. So there's a lot to it now that wasn't there originally. There are a lot of characters in that are fleshed out now that wouldn't have been usually. Like all the Turks and the side characters. I mean, even in the remake, they had the initial characters that die right away. They got fleshed out a lot. As a writer and an editor, that kind of stuff really piques my interest. I like to see what other people are doing, what works and what doesn't work. Some people might be wondering what it's like to edit light novels, and a lot of it's trimming excessive text or getting rid of repeated text. In Japanese, they tend to be more indirect, and that's considered good writing, whereas in English, we prefer to be direct. So a lot of times the text I get will be bogged down with a lot of extra words that ruin the pacing, they'll make it vaguer, and they don't commit to an idea. So the author wants to say something, but then they soften it up instead of committing to what it is they want to say. So I'm sticking an example on the screen of the type of stuff I'll see, and then how I'll trim it down. So you have things like, repeating the word small a lot, saying things like tried to, managed to, continued to, just extra words that aren't needed. Because you can see in the text, he successfully grabbed her hand, so you don't need to say that he tried to or something like that. She looked at him. She didn't need to manage to look at him. She did look at him. You don't need to say that he grabbed her hand with his hand, because unless he's using his foot or something, most people know that he will grab something with his hand. Or you don't need to say she tilted her head curiously to the side, because that people are going to know she's tilting her head to the side if she's tilting her head curiously. They're not going to picture her throwing her head back. So the first part is 77 words and the second part is 50 words. And that's more than I usually trim. Usually I probably trim about 4% of the words. But you've got to imagine that if a book is 60,000 words and you trim 4% of it, you're getting rid of a few thousand words. You probably trim about 10 pages of stuff that is just saying things like tried to, managed to, continued to, or repeating things like saying she's small 500 times, things like that. I've personally never censored a story. I just try to present the best version of the author's story I can and polish it up. The authors intend to write a good, smooth, solid story, so I think it would be doing them a disservice to leave it sounding janky and stilted. You can't fix everything because some things just don't translate, but a lot of it you can smooth out and get all the exact same information across. And there's some things that I can't do anything about, like I had one story I was editing where the author would set her characters into a spot. Like, say her characters were out getting ice cream, and then she would have the characters take that time getting ice cream to think about the day before and everything that they did the day before. And I was wondering, why aren't you setting it the day before? Why do you have them getting ice cream and then thinking about when they did all this stuff? But I can't do anything about that because it's a translation. I'm getting across the thoughts of the author, in the nicest way I can, but I can't change it all. Everything I do has to get across the meaning that the author wanted. And there are times to use those extra words, like if he tried to grab her hand, but he wasn't successful for some reason. You could say, oh, he tried to, but he wasn't able to. Or if somebody has to struggle to do something, maybe you might say managed to. But a lot of times it's just in there because they're kind of putting out a thought and then drawing back from that thought and making it a little softer. People have a tendency to do this in their speech and stuff to try and soften up their thoughts. But it's not good in a book. In a book, you just want to put the thought out there. You want to let your main verb be the hero of the sentence, and these usually take away from that verb. Sort of like how if you put suddenly in a sentence, it actually makes the sentence less sudden. So it's better to have the sentence get the feeling of being sudden across through its cadence than by just saying sudden. Sometimes you still use it. You don't have to be too picky all the time, but you do what you can. I feel sort of like I'm the author's biggest cheerleader, being their editor, and I want to do the best I can for them. A lot of people have been talking about AI these days and replacing people with it. And they might wonder if somebody like myself, who just edits books, is worried about being replaced by a computer, but not really. I use 2 different programs along with looking at it myself, and I also listen to it through a text-to-speech reader before I turn it in. And I know the limitations of these programs. I see where they excel and where they're not very good. So I'll just put up a few examples just to show you of things I actually ran into recently. I changed a couple of words just to hide the identity of the books because they have no connection to what I'm doing here. Okay, so the first one. A table had been set up by the windows. Not very exciting, but don't worry, the computer has got you covered. The windows had set up a table. See, this is the kind of thing only the computer would make this mistake. No person would make this mistake. Now, there was a child with a pool float outside. So I think we all have an idea what's going on there. And here's what the computer thinks is going on. There was a child with a pool floating outside. I'd like to see that. But it will be different if you fall in love yourself. So, maybe we could fix the wording a little bit, but I think we all know what's going on. But it will be different if you fall in love with yourself. I mean, self-love, I guess. And the best one. The Misty Queen will have her way over my dead body. Maybe a little cliche. We all know what's happening there. I don't think we have to explain. But here's what the computer thinks. The Misty Queen will have her way with my dead body. That's a complete sentence, all right. I think it changes the genre of the book. So I'm not really worried. I also tried to hire an artist to do the artwork for the banner, and I got somebody who was clearly doing AI art to try and trick me into thinking they were drawing it. And that's the biggest problem. They were pretending that they were drawing, and they were not. They were obviously generating the product. And it was confusing, the stuff they turned into me. None of it. They got maybe 5% of what I asked for right. And the character looked completely different, because obviously I have a specific character with a design that I showed them. And things like the ears were all weird. Sometimes the character was in a dress and pants. The gender was wrong sometimes. The ears were very confusing. Sometimes they weren't even ears. Maybe I'll show you guys what that looked like on the next video. But it was not very good. And it was quite a hassle to deal with them, because they really wanted to get paid for that. Even when I told them that I just wanted to discontinue the project, they kept trying to just turn in more things, thinking I was just going to accept something. And the stuff they turned in just got more and more baffling each time. So the AI stuff, as it is, doesn't worry me at all. I know I do good work, and it can't compete with me. Even calling it AI is a misnomer, because there's no intelligence there. It's just copying and pasting whatever's dumped into it. It can be a useful tool. There's not a problem with that. People just have to understand what it is, what it can do, and what you can even legally own, because you can't copyright an AI image. You could only copyright the parts that you personally edit on it. And that's only if those edits meet the requirements for copyright. And that's only those pieces. So you wouldn't own the whole artwork, you would only own the part that you edited. So if you want to create something and own it, you're not going to get anywhere with AI. And that's on top of the ethical issues, because they didn't ask for permission from the artists to dump a lot of the images into their AIs. If they got permission and they compensated the artists and they were using it ethically and they gave proper credits and you could transparently see where the images were generated from and how, then it wouldn't be a problem. Right now, that's just a legal minefield waiting to happen. It doesn't really matter if the image generated doesn't look like the original image. And you don't know if it does or not because you don't usually see the original image. It still does not make it fair use. So I would just say use that for things that don't matter. Like if you just want to make an AD&D character or something like that, or you're just using it for yourself. But don't expose yourself to any legal dangers.
I just don't know what we can do. Please help our prince.
Looks like we found the elves. I wonder what they think of the AI debate. I'm really hesitant to depend on any debuffs anymore. Maybe I should try them once or twice and see if they work. But the first one did not feel like it did a lot. I think I'd rather have some AoE damage spells now.
I am a sage. When the time is right, the future is revealed to me. I shall wait patiently until then.
So I guess she'll have something to say later. Just need to go through all these upgrades and selling stuff off real fast.
Weapons and armor made of mithril are sturdy and powerful. You should give them a try. You'll be surprised.
Mithril was made up by Tolkien, wasn't it? But it seems like a lot of fantasy uses it these days. So it must be public domain now or something. Going to need to farm some gil.
Our prince was meant to become the Elf King, but what will happen now?
And that's going to be it for this video. So, while you guys are still here, I'd say this is my first time making a video. I've never rigged a 2D live model before, or even used one before. I didn't even have a microphone before, so I've never done anything with editing sound. And I have no idea if I'm saying too much, or not talking enough, or if anything I'm saying is even remotely interesting. Basically, what I'm saying is, I have no idea what I'm doing. But if you were willing to watch that video, thank you very much. And I plan on continuing Final Fantasy 1 in the next video, and I hope you're there. If you like this video and you want to do something nice, there's a like button down there. It's pretty easy to press. There's also a dislike button if you didn't like it. I don't know why you would press that one. You know, been on the internet for a while, and one thing I know is that people on the internet are very nice, especially when they're anonymous. So I'm sure everybody will press the like button. It's just down there. It's just very easy. It's right there. There's also a subscribe button if you want that. Did you press it?